I learned 3 things the night Kang Minho knelt before me. 1. Blood doesn't wash out of marble easily. 2. The most dangerous man in Seoul had a scar beneath his left collarbone shaped like a crescent moon. 3. Some men only beg once in their entire lives, and when they do, the world stops turning. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 6 months earlier, I didn't know Kang Minho existed. I was nobody. A phlebotomist at Hanam General Hospital, 3rd shift, the hours nobody wanted. I drew blood from drunk college students and exhausted mothers and men who'd gotten into fights they couldn't finish. I was good at my job because I was invisible. People don't remember the woman with the needle. They remember the pain or the relief after, but never the face attached to either. I preferred it that way. My apartment was 1,200 square feet of borrowed furniture and overdue library books. My social life consisted of coffee with my coworker Jiho every Tuesday and silence the rest of the week. My parents had died in a ferry accident when I was 19. No siblings, no boyfriend, no debt, no drama, no danger. I thought I'd built something safe. The first time I saw him, I didn't know who he was. He came into the ER at 2 in the morning with a man who'd been shot in the shoulder. Not gut shot, not fatal, but enough that the man was pale and sweating and making sounds like a wounded animal. Minho didn't speak to the nurses. He didn't fill out paperwork. He stood against the wall with his hands in the pockets of a black wool coat, and he watched. I was called to draw blood for typing, standard procedure. The injured man was babbling in dialect I barely recognized, something rural, something scared. I focused on the vein, the tourniquet, the flash of red into the vacuum tube. I worked quickly, efficiently. I didn't look at the man in the coat. But I felt him looking at me. When I turned to label the vials, he was closer than he should have been. Not threatening, just there. Close enough that I could smell rain and something sharper. Gunpowder, maybe, or cold metal. "You're steady," he said. His voice was quiet, no accent I could place, educated, controlled. I didn't respond. I finished labeling the tubes and walked them to the lab myself instead of using the pneumatic system. When I came back, both men were gone. The intake paperwork had been left blank except for a single line, cash payment. No follow-up required. Jiho found me in the break room 20 minutes later. She looked pale. "Did you see who brought in the GSW?" "I saw a man in a coat," I said. "Why?" She sat down heavily. "That was Kang Minho." The name meant nothing to me. "Minho," she repeated like I was stupid. "Kang Minho, Hanam Society, you really don't." She stopped, studied my face, laughed once, sharp and humorless. "God, Sujin, you really don't pay attention to anything, do you?" I didn't answer. "He's the man everyone's afraid of," Jiho said quietly. "His family controls half the infrastructure in Seoul. Ports, construction, politicians. If you owe money to the wrong people, you owe it to them. If someone disappears, they probably crossed him. He doesn't get arrested because half the cops in this city are on his payroll." I thought about the man in the coat, the quiet voice, the way he'd watched me like I was a problem he was trying to solve. "He seemed calm," I said. Jiho stared at me. "That's the worst part." I went home that morning and didn't think about Kang Minho again for 3 weeks. Then he came back. Same shift, same hour. This time, no injured men. Just him alone, walking through the like he owned it. He stopped at the nurse's station and said something to the charge nurse I couldn't hear. She pointed at me. He followed her gesture, made eye contact, and walked directly to where I stood preparing a blood draw kit for an incoming trauma. "I need you to come with me," he said. I looked at him properly for the first time. Mid-30s, black hair swept back, slightly too long in the front, sharp jaw, dark eyes that didn't blink often enough, expensive suit under the same black coat. No visible weapons, but I knew they were there. "I'm working," I said. "Not anymore." "I don't know you." "You will." Behind him, the charge nurse was nodding at me frantically. "Go, just go, don't ask questions." I put down the kit. I washed my hands. I took off my latex gloves and dropped them in the hazardous waste bin. I followed him out of the ER, through the automatic doors, into the rain-slick parking lot. A black sedan was waiting, engine running, driver invisible behind tinted glass. "Get in," Minho said. "No." He turned to face me fully. Rain was falling harder now, soaking his coat, darkening his hair. He didn't move to wipe his face. He just watched me with the same expression he'd worn 3 weeks ago, analytical, patient. "My brother was shot tonight," he said quietly. "The hospital he was taken to doesn't have a phlebotomist I trust. You're coming with me to draw his blood, verify his type, and ensure the transfusion is clean. You'll be paid 10 million won for 2 hours of work. You'll be driven home safely afterward. Or you can refuse, and I'll have someone else handle it, and my brother may die because I didn't take the option in front of me seriously enough." I stared at him. "You're lying." "I don't lie. I don't need to." The rain ran down my neck under my scrubs, cold and insistent. I thought about Jiho's warning. I thought about the way the charge nurse had looked at me like I was already gone. I thought about 10 million won, 6 months' rent, a year of safety. "If I say no," I asked. "You say no. And then I find someone else, and you go back to work, and we never speak again." I believed him. I don't know why, but I did. 2 hours, I said. 2 hours. I got in the car. The driver didn't speak. Minho sat beside me in silence, staring out the window as the city blurred past. We drove south, away from the hospital, into neighborhoods I didn't recognize. Luxury high-rises gave way to older buildings, industrial blocks, warehouses with metal shutters and no signs. The car stopped in front of a building that looked abandoned. Concrete. Narrow windows. No lights. Minho got out. I followed. Inside, the space was gutted and repurposed. Bare brick walls. Medical equipment that looked expensive and out of place. A man on a table in the center of the room, pale, unconscious, hooked to an IV. Another man in a white coat, a doctor, I assumed, though I didn't ask, stood nearby, checking vitals. "This is Kang Minho," Minho said, gesturing to the man on the table. "My younger brother. He was shot twice, once in the abdomen, once in the thigh. The abdominal wound required surgery. He's lost a significant amount of blood. We need to verify his type and cross-match before transfusion. The doctor will handle the rest. You handle the blood draw." I walked to the table. I examined Junho's arm, found a vein, prepped the site. My hands didn't shake. They never did. I drew 4 vials cleanly, labeled them, handed them to the doctor. The whole process took 6 minutes. "That's it?" Minho asked. "That's it." He watched me for a long moment. Then he pulled a slim envelope from his coat and handed it to me. I didn't open it. I knew what was inside. "I'll have you driven home," he said. "Thank you. One more thing." I waited. "You don't talk about this. Not to your coworker, not to anyone." I wasn't planning to. Good. I should have left it there. I should have taken the money, gone home, forgotten the whole thing. But I looked at Junho on the table, at the bandages wrapped around his torso, at the blood seeping through despite the pressure dressings. And I looked at Minho, standing there like a statue, hands in his pockets, face unreadable. "Will he be okay?" I asked. Minho didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quieter than before. "I don't know." Something in his tone made my chest tighten. Not fear, something worse, honesty, vulnerability. The kind of thing a man like him shouldn't show to someone like me. "I hope he is," I said. Minho looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Then he nodded once and walked me to the car. I didn't hear from him again for 2 months. I spent the 10 million won carefully. Rent, utilities, a new winter coat. I didn't tell Jiho what had happened, but she knew something had changed. She asked me twice if I was in trouble. I said no. She didn't believe me, but she stopped asking. I tried to go back to normal. 3rd shift, blood draws, coffee on Tuesdays. But I started noticing things I hadn't before. Men in expensive suits at the ER who didn't wait in line. Conversations that stopped when I walked past. The way certain doctors avoided certain patients entirely. I noticed the world I'd been living in wasn't the world I thought it was. And then, on a Saturday in November, Minho walked into my apartment building. I was coming home from the grocery store, arms full of bags, keys between my teeth. He was standing in the lobby, hands in his coat pockets, looking at the mailboxes like he had all the time in the world. When I walked in, he turned and looked at me. No surprise, no urgency, just that same calm, patient expression. "We need to talk," he said. I dropped my keys. He picked them up and handed them to me. "How did you find my address?" I asked. "I've known it since the first night you drew blood in the ER." "That's comforting." He almost smiled, almost. "Can I come up?" "No." "Then we'll talk here." I set the grocery bags down. "What do you want?" "My brother recovered," he said. "Because you were fast and careful and didn't ask stupid questions. I owe you for that." "You already paid me." "Money isn't the same as a debt." I didn't understand what he meant, and I didn't want to. I picked up my bags. "I'm glad he's okay. Goodbye." "Sujin." Hearing my name and his voice stopped me cold. I turned back. He was closer now. Close enough that I could see the faint scar on his cheekbone, the way his pupils dilated slightly in the dim lobby light. "Someone's been asking about you," he said quietly. "A man named Choi Dong-won. He works for a rival organization. He thinks you're valuable because you treated Junho. He thinks if he takes you, I'll negotiate." My stomach dropped. "Will you?" "No." The answer came so quickly, so calmly, that I almost missed the weight behind it. "Then what happens to me?" I asked. "Nothing, because he won't take you." "How can you be sure?" Minyu stepped closer, not threatening, protective. "Because I'm going to make sure he understands what happens to men who touch things that belong to me." "I don't belong to you." "You do now." I should have been terrified. I should have run. But I looked at him, at the absolute certainty in his eyes, at the way he stood between me and the door like a wall, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 6 years. "Safe." "I didn't ask for this," I said. "I know. I just wanted to be invisible." "You were, until you weren't." He reached into his coat and pulled out a phone. Not his, a burner probably. He handed it to me. "My number's programmed in. If anything happens, anything, you call me. You don't call the police. You don't call your coworker, you call me." I took the phone. It was warm from being inside his coat. "What if I don't want to call you?" I asked. "Then you call me anyway." He walked past me, toward the door, and I thought that was it. He'd leave. I'd never see him again. But he stopped, hand on the glass, and looked back. "Junho asked about you," he said. "He wanted to know your name. I didn't tell him." "Why not?" "Because the fewer people who know you exist, the safer you are." Then he was gone. The lobby felt colder without him. I went upstairs. I put away the groceries. I sat on my couch with the burner phone in my hand and stared at it for an hour before I finally turned it on. One contact. No name, just a number. I didn't call it that night, but I kept the phone charged. 3 days later, Choi Dong-won tried to grab me outside the hospital. It was just after dawn. I was walking to the bus stop, exhausted from a double shift, barely paying attention. A van pulled up beside me. Side door opened. 2 men got out, moving fast. One grabbed my arm. The other went for my bag. I screamed. The first man hit me across the face, hard enough that I tasted blood. Then everything went quiet. Not silent, quiet, like someone had turned the volume down on the world. I looked up. Minyu was standing 10 feet away, hands still in his coat pockets, face expressionless. Behind him, 3 other men, black suits, blank faces. One of them was holding a gun, but it wasn't pointed at me. Choi Dong-won, I assumed that's who he was, stood beside the van, smiling. He was older than Minyu. Shorter, soft around the middle. He looked like someone's harmless uncle. "Kang Minho," Dong-won said pleasantly. "I didn't expect you so early." Minyu didn't respond. "I was just having a conversation with your friend here," Dong-won continued. "We were going to take her somewhere comfortable, somewhere we could discuss terms." "No," Minyu said. "No. You don't negotiate with me using people I care about. You know the rules." Dong-won's smile widened. People you care about? That's new. I didn't think you cared about anyone except Junho. This girl must be special. She is. My chest tightened. I didn't move. Then let's make a deal, Dongwon said. I'll give her back unharmed if you give me access to the Busan shipping routes. Fair trade, wouldn't you say? Minyu stepped forward, just one step, but the air changed. Dongwon's smile faltered. You're not hearing me, Minyu said quietly. This isn't a negotiation. You're going to let her go. You're going to get back in your van. You're going to leave Seoul tonight and never come back. And if you don't, I'm going to kill you right here, and then I'm going to kill everyone you've ever worked with, and then I'm going to burn down everything you've ever built. Dongwon stared at him. The two men who'd grabbed me let go and backed toward the van. Dongwon's face went pale. You're bluffing, he said. I don't bluff. Minyu pulled his right hand from his pocket. He was holding a gun. He didn't point it at Dongwon. He just held it casually, like it was part of his body. Get in the van, Minyu said. Dongwon got in the van. His men scrambled in after him. The van pulled away, tires squealing. Minyu watched it disappear around the corner, then lowered the gun and turned to me. Are you hurt? I touched my mouth, blood on my fingers. I'm fine. He walked to me, reached out like he was going to touch my face, then stopped. His hand hovered near my cheek, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his skin. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For making you visible. Then he turned and walked to a black sedan parked across the street. One of his men opened the back door. Minyu looked at me one more time. Get in, he said. I got in. He drove me to a building I didn't recognize. Not a warehouse this time. A penthouse, glass walls, city lights stretching out in every direction. He poured me water and told me to sit down. I sat. He stood by the window, staring out at Seoul, silent. You can't go back to your apartment, he said eventually. Why not? Because Dongwon knows where you live. Because he'll send someone else. Because you're not safe there anymore. Where am I safe? He turned to look at me. Here. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It was absurd. All of it. The penthouse, the gun, the man who just threatened to kill someone over me standing there like it was the most normal thing in the world. I can't live here, I said. Why not? Because I don't know you. Because this isn't my life. Because you're afraid of me. I stopped, looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't angry. He was just waiting. Yes, I said finally. Good, you should be. He walked over and sat down across from me. Not close, not far, just present. I'm not going to lie to you, Sujin. I'm a dangerous man. I hurt people. I've done things you'd find unforgivable. But I don't hurt people who don't deserve it, and I don't let anyone hurt the people I protect. You're one of those people now. You didn't choose it. I didn't ask permission. But that's the reality. I don't want to be protected. Too late. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him he didn't get to decide my life for me. But I looked at his face, at the faint scar on his cheekbone, at the exhaustion beneath the control, and I realized something. He was telling the truth. What if I leave Seoul? I asked. Then I'll follow you. What if I go to the police? Then you'll disappear into witness protection, and Dongwon will find you anyway because half the police are corrupt, and you'll die alone instead of protected. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. You stay alive, I make sure of it, that's the deal. I looked out the window at the city below. Millions of people. Millions of lives I'd never touch. I'd spent 6 years trying to be invisible, trying to build a small, safe life, and now a man I barely knew was telling me I couldn't have that anymore. I need to think, I said. Take your time. You're not leaving this apartment until Dongwon is handled. How long will that take? 3 days, maybe less. I stayed for 5. Minyu left every morning and came back every night. He didn't tell me where he went or what he did, and I didn't ask. I had my own room, my own bathroom. Food appeared in the kitchen. Clean clothes in my size showed up in the closet. It felt like a hotel, except I couldn't leave. On the third night, I woke up to voices in the living room. I crept to the door and listened. Minho was on the phone, speaking in low, clipped tones. I don't care what it costs. I want him out of the country by tomorrow, or I want confirmation he's dead. Choose one. Silence. Good, and the girl's apartment. More silence. Clean it, make it look like she moved out voluntarily. Forward her mail to this address. She's not going back. He hung up. I heard him walk to the window. I should have gone back to bed, but I didn't. I opened the door and stepped into the living room. He turned when he heard me. Can't sleep, he asked. I heard you. I figured. You're not even going to pretend I didn't. No. I walked to the window and stood next to him. The city looked different from this height. Smaller, manageable. Is he dead? I asked. Not yet, but he will be. Because of me. Because of him, he made the choice. I'm just following through. I wanted to feel guilty. I wanted to feel something, but all I felt was tired. What happens after? I asked. After what? After Dongwon's gone, after I'm safe, what happens to me? Minho was quiet for a long time. Then he said very softly, that's up to you. Is it? Yes. Even if I want to leave. Even then. I looked at him, he wasn't lying. I could tell he meant it. He'd protect me, keep me safe, and then let me walk away if I wanted. That's what made him dangerous. Not the violence, not the power, the restraint. What do you want? I asked. He turned to face me. His eyes were dark, unreadable, but there was something in them I hadn't seen before. Something raw. I want you to stay, he said. Why? Because you're the first person in 10 years who's looked at me like I'm a man instead of a monster. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. I just stood there next to him, watching the city breathe. On the 5th night, Minho came home covered in blood. It wasn't his. I could tell immediately. He walked through the door, shrugged off his coat, and dropped it on the floor. His shirt was soaked through. His hands were red. He looked at me, and for the first time I saw something in his face that looked like exhaustion. It's done, he said. Dongwon. Gone, along with the men who worked for him. All of them. All of them. He walked past me toward the bathroom. I heard the shower turn on. I stood there, staring at the coat on the floor, at the blood pooling on the tile. I should have been horrified. I should have run. But instead, I walked to the bathroom and knocked on the door. Minho. The water stopped. Are you okay? I asked. Silence. Minho. The door opened. He stood there, shirt off, tattoos covering his chest and arms, old scars layered beneath the ink. He looked at me like he didn't understand the question. Why do you care? He asked. I don't know. He stepped forward, close enough that I could smell the soap on his skin, the faint metallic tang of blood still clinging to him. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. You should go back to your room, he said quietly. I know. Sujin. I know. I didn't move. His hand came up, slow, careful, and brushed a strand of hair away from my face. His fingers were still damp from the shower. They lingered near my cheek, tracing the bruise Dongwon's man had left. I'm sorry this happened to you, he said. I'm not. He looked at me like I just said something incomprehensible. I'm not, I repeated. I was invisible before, I was safe, but I was also alone. I didn't matter to anyone, I didn't matter to myself, and now, I trailed off. I didn't know how to finish. Now, he prompted. Now I matter to you. His hand stilled. His eyes searched mine, looking for the lie, the doubt, the fear. He didn't find any. Yes, he said, you do. He kissed me then, soft, careful, like I might break. I kissed him back, harder, like I wouldn't. His hands found my waist. My fingers tangled in his wet hair. We stumbled backward into the bathroom, into the steam, into the heat. He lifted me onto the counter, and I wrapped my legs around him, pulling him closer, desperate for something I didn't have words for. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Tell me to stop, he said. No. Sujin, I'm not afraid of you. You should be. I know I'm not. He rested his forehead against mine, eyes closed, hands gripping my hips like I was the only thing keeping him upright. If you stay, he said quietly, this is your life, danger, violence. Men like Dongwon who'll try to use you to hurt me. I can protect you, but I can't make you normal again. I can't give you invisible back. I don't want invisible. What do you want? I looked at him, at the scars, at the tattoos, at the man who'd killed for me without hesitation and was now asking my permission for this. I want this, I said. He kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, like he was memorizing the shape of my mouth, the taste of my skin. He carried me to the bedroom and I didn't protest. I didn't think. I just held on and let him take me apart, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but the two of us and the sound of rain against the window. Afterward, we lay tangled in the sheets, his arm around me, my head on his chest. I could feel his heartbeat, steady, calm, like he hadn't just ended 6 lives tonight. What happens now? I asked. Now you decide if you're staying or leaving. And if I stay, then you're mine, and I'm yours, and anyone who tries to come between us ends up like Dongwon. I should have found that terrifying. Instead, I found it comforting. And if I leave, then I let you go, and I make sure no one ever bothers you again. I believed him. I knew he'd do it. He'd walk away, disappear from my life, leave me safe and alone. And I knew with absolute certainty that I'd regret it for the rest of my life. I'm staying, I said. His arm tightened around me. Are you sure? Yes. Why? I thought about that, about the hospital, about the invisible life, about Jiho's warnings and the way Dongwon had smiled before Minho made him leave. I thought about the way Minho looked at me, like I was something precious and dangerous all at once. Because I've spent 6 years being safe, I said finally. And I was miserable, and in 5 days with you, I've felt more alive than I have in my entire life. He was quiet for a long time. Then he kissed the top of my head. Okay, he said. Okay. Okay. I fell asleep in his arms, listening to the rain, feeling safer than I'd ever felt in my life. When I woke up, he was gone. Not gone from the apartment, gone from the bed. I found him in the living room, standing by the window again, staring out at the city. He was dressed. Black suit, white shirt, no tie. He looked like he was about to go to war. What's wrong? I asked. He turned. His face was unreadable. Nothing's wrong. Then why do you look like that? Like what? Like you're about to do something terrible. He almost smiled. I'm always about to do something terrible. I walked over to him. Minho. He reached out and pulled me against him. I rested my head on his chest, and he rested his chin on top of my head, and for a moment, we just stood there. I have to go handle something, he said quietly. I'll be back tonight. Is it dangerous? Everything I do is dangerous. Will you be okay? I'm always okay. That's not an answer. He pulled back and looked at me, really looked at me. Then he cupped my face in his hands and kissed me, slow and deep and devastating. I'll be okay, he said when he pulled away. I promise. Okay. Stay here, don't leave. Don't answer the door, don't open the windows, just stay. I'll stay. He kissed me again, then let me go and walked to the door. He stopped, hand on the knob, and looked back. Sujin. Yeah. I love you. Then he left. I stood there, frozen, those 3 words echoing in my head. He loved me. The most dangerous man in Seoul loved me, and I realized, standing there in his empty apartment, that I loved him too. I should have been terrified. I wasn't. I spent the day cleaning. It was the only thing I could think to do. I cleaned the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom. I folded his shirts. I washed the dishes. I scrubbed the blood off the tile where his coat had been, and I waited. He didn't come home that night. Or the next. By the 3rd day, I was frantic. I called the number on the burner phone. No answer. I called again and again. Nothing. I paced the apartment. I stared out the window. I imagined every horrible thing that could have happened. And then, on the fourth night, the door opened. I ran to the living room. It was Minho. But not. He was pale, shaking, covered in blood, his blood this time. His left arm was hanging at an odd angle. His shirt was torn. There was a gash across his ribs I could see through the fabric. He saw me and stopped. "You're still here," he said. "Of course I'm still here." He swayed. I caught him before he fell, dragging him to the couch, easing him down. He winced but didn't cry out. I ran to the bathroom, grabbed the first aid kit I'd seen under the sink, and came back. "What happened?" I asked, already cutting away his shirt. "Ambush, rival family, they thought," he hissed as I pressed gauze to the gash. "They thought I was vulnerable." "Are you?" "Not anymore." I cleaned the wound. It wasn't as deep as it looked. The arm was dislocated, not broken. I could fix that. I'd done it before in the ER late nights when orthopedics was backed up. I braced myself, gripped his wrist and shoulder, and pulled. He didn't scream. He just exhaled hard through his teeth and closed his eyes. "Done," I said. He opened his eyes, looked at me. Then, slowly, carefully, he slid off the couch and onto his knees. I stared at him. "What are you doing?" "I'm sorry," he said. "For what?" "For leaving, for not calling, for making you wait, for—" "Minho, get up." "No." "Get up." I thought I was going to die, and all I could think about was that I'd told you I loved you and then disappeared. I thought you'd think I lied. I thought. I dropped to my knees in front of him and grabbed his face. "Shut up." He stopped. "I didn't think you lied," I said. "I thought you were dead. Do you understand the difference?" He stared at me. Blood was still running down his ribs, soaking into his ruined pants. He was shaking, not from pain, from fear. "I'm sorry," he said again. "Stop apologizing." "I don't know how." I kissed him, hard, desperate, trying to pour everything I felt into that kiss, the fear, the relief, the love. When I pulled back, he was looking at me like I'd just saved his life. "Don't leave me again," I said. "I won't." "Promise." "I promise." He pulled me against him, ignoring the blood, ignoring the pain, holding me like I was the only solid thing in a tilting world. We stayed like that for a long time, kneeling on the floor, wrapped around each other, breathing. "I love you," I said into his shoulder. He went very still, then his arms tightened around me. "Say it again," he whispered. "I love you." Again. "I love you, Minho." He made a sound I'd never heard from him before. Broken, relieved, human. "I don't deserve you," he said. "I know. I'm a terrible person. I know that too. And you still." "Yes." He pulled back, looked at me with those dark, unreadable eyes, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Not control, not power, just him, just the man beneath the monster. "I'm never letting you go," he said. "Good." He kissed me then, soft and sweet and devastating. And I kissed him back, knowing what I was choosing, knowing what my life would be now, and not regretting a single second. We stayed on the floor until the sun came up. Then I helped him to the bedroom, cleaned and bandaged his wounds properly, made him lie down. He fell asleep with his hand in mine, and I stayed awake, watching him breathe, feeling his pulse under my fingers. I thought about the hospital, about the invisible life, about the woman I'd been 6 months ago who thought safety meant being alone. I thought about Kang Minho, the most dangerous man in Seoul, kneeling before me covered in blood and begging me to stay. And I thought about the fact that I'd said yes. I didn't regret it. The sun rose over the city, painting the penthouse gold, and I knew 3 things for certain. 1, I'd never be invisible again. 2, I'd never be safe the way I used to be. 3, I'd never be alone. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. Outside, Seoul woke up. Millions of people starting their ordinary lives. And up here, in this glass tower, I started mine. Dangerous, complicated, his. And I wouldn't have it any other way.